It is finally Infrastructure Week. That's right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to Cities Skylines, East Yorkshire. I think you know, and as discussed in last week's episode, today we are focusing on building the bridge and the infrastructure surrounding it. And in a little bit of extra bonus footage, this is a longer episode than usual. Because for the last several minutes, we'll be actually building the first area of the city that is outside of the city of Kingston proper. So we'll be building a small, I guess you can call it a suburb or a smaller attached city. In real life, this is the city of Hezl. And I'll be building that today at basically the foot of the bridge, which actually was suggested in the comments in the last video. And if you're not getting down in the comments section once in a while, I highly recommend it. Got some good work going on down there. But what you're going to be seeing built first is not going to be in the city in the end. I actually started building out this interchange, and my initial thought was to do a simple trumpet interchange with the highway going under it. And you'll see that for this section of the highway, I've switched it from the dual roads to one of these UK road project highways, which I have the same problem with these roads as I have with all of the other UK road project roads, whereas they look excellent. The textures are great. I think they're really good looking roads. The problem is that splitting junctions for the highway off of these looks really messy. So I have gone and left some of this footage in, and you'll see it playing through here for the next minute or so. But I'm sure you'll agree with me. It just did not look the way that I wanted it to look. It did not look pretty enough. It did not look worthy of this build. And I ended up trashing it. And after this footage plays, you will see footage of what I replaced it with. And there's been a lot of work being done off screen as well, off camera, where I've played around with the exact direction, the railway flows, and the height of this area. I think this is the right area to build a bridge because it has that kind of higher elevation compared to the rest of the area around it, which gives more status and prominence to the bridge itself. But that makes it a little bit more challenging to put the infrastructure you need below the bridge, roads, the railway, all the interchanges, while also blending in all of the textures of all the roads. You see here, I'm kind of playing around, and you see a lot of those lighter colored cliff textures starting to show up. And I want to avoid that. I want to make it look like all the land here is properly sloped and accommodating of the bridge. So again, looking for a trumpet interchange here, and I start looping it around, and it's so hard to get these curves quite right, and it's even harder when you're working with roads that don't really want to accept it on land that's not been properly leveled. And I don't think what I did here was horrific, but I'm definitely glad that I scrapped all of this because it just wasn't good enough. With that being said, though, let's get into what actually does get built. And first, to kind of get my mind working right, I started building out some of the infrastructure of the roads connecting what will be our smaller city to the city of Kingston. And I just kind of wanted to lay out some of the larger roads and have them play and interact with the railway infrastructure so that that big Y to the eastern part of the railway interchange is handling all of our passenger traffic, and this part that's raised up on the berm will eventually carry our freight traffic into the industrial zone in the eastern side of the city, which is not built yet, but I'm getting there. That's going to come soon for sure. And then I started looking at the way this interchange looks in real life. So in real life, this is the Humber Bridge. It actually held their record for a couple of decades. It was the longest suspension bridge in the world. It is a truly insane engineering feat. I'm always marveled by it. When you're driving into Hull on the A63, the highway that leads into it, the point where I know I'm about to be in the city is when you see the bridge, and you go under it and it seems like it's a mile above you. And it's kind of unique because you don't expect it to be in that area. It's not the most heavily populated area of the world, but the bridge actually allows incredibly shorter travel times between Hull on the northern bank of the estuary and all the cities to the south of it. And we're not going to be building to the south of this just yet, although I do connect up the bridge off screen, but at least we can in the future. Now, when I looked at this in real life, as I was saying, the actual bridge in real life kind of curves off from right to left and then connects with a series of roundabouts that provide an interchange to the highway. Now, I didn't need quite as much infrastructure as that. I didn't need that extra roundabout in there. I think it would have been overkill. But I did find that just kind of letting the highway itself slope directly off the main overpasses and into this roundabout that I've made here was a really easy way to use the height of the land here. And I was able to pretty quickly slope all of that and really make it work for the interchange. So it doesn't look like much right now, but it gets there really fast. And the interchange I end up building is not really quite finished either, because you'll notice when I start building it in just a little bit that I leave part of it as a two-way road and part of it as a one-way road. And my intent for that area, since it's kind of like secluded south of the highway, near the water, south of the bridge, that's where I'm going to be putting a lot of the energy infrastructure and water infrastructure in the future. So right now, every time I expand what you, the viewer, are seeing in these videos, I keep moving my heating and my water and my sewage treatment, and I really need to find a place for all that to go and a place where I can build it out and make it look nice. So I think it'll go southwest of what you're seeing being built here, but I really haven't decided yet when I'll build that. I might even just build that entirely off camera because it's not, not the most important part of the city. We have a lot else to cover in, like I keep saying, it's probably only about 8 to 10 more episodes at this point. I can't believe we're already at 13. I feel like I was just doing number 10. But I'm trying to get these out a little bit quicker for you. I'm even kind of, this voiceover is completely ad hoc. I haven't written any notes down, but I've been working on this build for the last week, and I really wanted to get it out to you. I didn't want to wait any longer. So I hope you like it. If you'd like to see a little bit more structure on what we're talking about during these episodes, please let me know in the comments. But trying to make it so that I can get the videos out quicker, because I think that's more important. And I have a lot of ideas in my mind right now about projects that I want to do in the future. I know I've mentioned about New York. I'm still not sure I'm going to be building a new version of one-to-one New York. There seems to be some other creators right now that are doing a bit more of a New York vibe, not exactly a one-to-one build. So nobody should have any problem with that, but I also don't want to kind of have too much overlap, and it's such an extensive thing to do. So I'm thinking about other ways I could talk about New York, or maybe doing a one-to-one build of a different city. If you have a particular city that you'd like to see a true one-to-one build of, and please, large American cities, I'm so done doing European, UK cities right now. Let me know, because I have a particular idea in my mind, but I haven't made a final decision yet, and we need to put a lot of work in there first to get the assets all managed and ready to go. So next you'll see we're going to start building that town that I was talking about. And first things first, I had to lay down the train station. So I've known for a while that the third track of the main train station in Kingston was going to lead to a station in one of these southwestern suburbs. And it just made perfect sense to put it right there where it is. And I kind of just laid out this kind of funky layout. So, I wanted a little bit more curvature. I wanted a little bit more free flowing and freedom to the road layout here, while also being squared off enough where I can easily put in some housing developments. And I started with a pretty big opening there in the middle. I wanted like a main square for the town, and I ended up, it was too big. I had to scale it down a bit, but you'll see I end up with this. I got a few different church assets that have been in my asset pool since I started working on this, but I really wanted to make sure that I used a few of these other church assets outside of the city. And I don't know, I think this might be my favorite part of the build. because I got to use these Grave assets, which I've also had for a while and haven't taken the opportunity to use at all. And they're actually pretty nice. And then just kind of throwing in, you'll see I'm going to throw in trees. I'm going to throw in some bushes and some benches. But I think what really makes it look the best is I ended up putting in just the vanilla gravel paths connecting just a few parts of the church, kind of almost creating a walkway through the church grounds. And I just really like the way that texture looks surrounding the church. I think it really plays nicely, and you know, I think the church provides the setting for the town. It's what lets you know this is a relatively old settlement. This is not some brand new development, and that's why, you know, the core of the city center and the train station being just outside of it makes a lot of sense. And then what I'll be doing as I build out and out from this main city square, then there'll be more modern housing developments, and I'll have to try to find a way to link those into the western part of the city, because I really want this to be contiguous. I don't want there to be any gap between this smaller city and the larger city of Kingston. They're almost kind of grown into each other. Especially since, you know, this area is so far south towards the water. It's not an ideal place to be putting any of the farming that I want to use to separate buildings in the northern part of the city. And now I got to talk about what I think is the worst thing that's happened to me playing this game in quite a while. It's not quite this section here, and I'd have to, I think, you know, scroll through my timeline here and see. It's coming up in a little bit, but there was a section that I worked on the other night. I had an hour of footage recorded, and the footage was good. The footage you're going to be seeing throughout the rest of the video is footage that you know, I shot during that build. Unfortunately, after about an hour of recording footage and not saving because I'm an idiot, the game crashed. Just a hard lockup too. Usually you get the notice that says Cities Skylines has crashed, alert to developers. No, which, you know, it happens, but this was a different kind of freeze. Just like I said, a full hard lock, nothing would work. I prayed and waited and hoped that it would pull itself out of its not responding state, but it never did. And what I actually did a couple nights ago is I had the footage on my second monitor and I rebuilt everything that I built to a pretty high level of accuracy. I wouldn't say it's 100% the same, but you'd be hard pressed to find the difference unless you spent quite a while you know, taking a look in my city. So that is the kind of dedication you get on this channel. I don't want you missing out when we get to the live play of having such a, you know, a beautiful looking city. I want what you see in the footage to be what you see in the live play. And I haven't recorded the live play yet for this, but I am planning on doing one. I still need to get in there and make some cinematics. And I've also been doing a lot of work on this area off camera, so there will be some additional footage that you're not going to see, but by the time you get to the end of the time lapse, you'll kind of see what the expansion looks like in the live play, because really it gets to be a little bit repetitive. I'm kind of just slowly but surely trying to find unique and, you know, attractive ways to put more housing into this area, but I've actually kind of caught up on the housing needs in the map overall. By the end of this, we'll be close to 11,000 citizens, which is, you know, a nice increase. I think we were at about 10 last week. And it's weird because a lot of the office buildings I'm producing, they're really just complaining about not having enough educated workers because it's still not a university in the city. And I think it's kind of holding back things a little bit. So even though I definitely need to build some basic industry elsewhere, I'm kind of tempted. I don't know. It'll either be university next or docks next, like the marina and the quays just below the city center, or it'll be the industrial area to the east of it. Yeah, let me know in the comments, which would you like to see? Because I really haven't decided yet. I think when I left the game, I played a little bit this morning. I was thinking about actually doing the marina next, because I was watching another YouTuber, and I really should give him credit. and I'll try to leave a text note over this to remind you all of if I can remember who it is, but just trying to find unique and different ways to build keys, because I find the built-in keys, the way they're textured, the way they curve, doesn't really quite look right, and I want right angles instead. So I think I have a really good option to make that work. That kind of has that kind of concrete gray and dingy feeling that I feel an old dock like this should have in a city like this. So maybe that's what I'll do next. But yeah, just let me know down in the comments. I'm always happy to take some suggestions. And yeah, I just left a little bit of that footage in there to show you the train working. So I didn't show the actual building of the train line because getting the stations mod to select the right track was a little finicky, and it looked a little crazy whipping the screen around trying to get the angle right on the video. So I just kind of left that out. But yeah, here's actually now where we start with all the footage that I had to replace. So I'm using kind of the library method again, which you've spoken about in the past, building a row of 4 Victorian houses, copying it and moving it and maybe tweaking the assets behind it a little bit. I ended up filling this in with some trees to make it a little bit more wooded in, but just trying to fill in the rows next to the city center as easily as possible and trying to do it in a way that makes sense. So if you're having this city center that's relatively old, it makes sense to have some older Victorian style homes next to them. And then as we work out from the really center of this little town, you'll see the housing get more and more modern as the city has expanded, and eventually we'll just have some council flats and some newer looking buildings. But for now, just forever playing around with fences. Definitely gets a little bit annoying, and having to redo this was just not great, I'll be honest. But which was worth it in the end, because I really do like the way a lot of this ends up coming out, especially the area directly across from the train station. So I kind of envision the train station here in the city as a commercial district, right? So you get off the train and shops and restaurants, they're right there, bars, a little bit of housing, but just kind of it's not really the city's high street. There's some other housing, commercial assets rather, scattered around, but for this area in particular, to have this be one of the more heavily traveled streets and have the trucks or the commercial coming down this way just made a lot of sense. But in the end, you'll see me continue to put in some houses here, but we're actually almost done here. There's about another minute or so of footage left, and I would definitely like you to stick around and check out the live play, because you're going to see, like I said, a lot more that's been built in this city. I've filled in probably another 5 or 6 massive blocks, and I probably will even do more before I actually get to recording the live play. I kind of like to finish this inner ring of the city off so I can just put it aside and move on and not really leave it unfinished. This is not an area that I want to focus on. I obviously want to be putting the focus on the city because the city of Kingston's where all the money's at. That's where the action's at. That's where we want to be. So you know what? I don't mind. I'll build this little school, and I'll put in a little soccer field, and I'll make it look nice. But in the end, we got to get back to what really matters. We got to get back to the city center and the marina, and we're going to do that in the next episode. But right now, we're doing a live play. All right, and here we are in the live play. As you can see, I have built quite a lot off camera. The crazy thing is, for the time-lapse footage, I know I said I had a crash and had to redo some of the footage, and I had the same thing happen again while trying to record the live play last night. So very annoying, really disappointing, and kind of scary, because I need to figure out why that keeps happening, because I do not want this to continue to creep into future work on this city. But speaking of this city, here is a yet to be named city. I'm gonna give that some thought, maybe wait till it's completely done. But my goal here was really just to fill in as much of this area as I could. And I left a few bits blank, particularly next to the train tracks, because at some point I am going to need to connect this over the train tracks and into this area between the highway and eventually down to the marina or coastline rather as well. So because of that, I haven't really done too much over here. Or over here you can see I started to build out another section of this city and put a small road connection underneath the bridge and underneath the highway. But you know, for a decent sized build today, I'm pretty happy with how it's come out. Definitely need a whole lot of detailing over here, over by the bridge, and you can see this just ugly slapdash connection I put in just to get it working. But the bridge looks really cool. I think just looking at the city from a distance with the bridge in your sights is just fantastic. You can definitely see yourself driving into the city on any good day. But let's take a look at what else I built off camera, and I probably don't remember exactly what was or wasn't done off camera, but I've extended out this residential area slightly over to here and just put in a bunch of older housing. Again, these newer Victorian assets right along this road here. Next to the school, I have a bit of a mixed bag. So I've put in some housing here. I kind of think this, the school looks old. These buildings were the original buildings next to the school, while the lot next to it and the lot across from it got completely redeveloped. And I think it makes sense to put these more denser housing units right against the major road. Probably not the best place to live in the city again, but still not a bad place to be, with a little bit of parking and, you know, it's very walkable, train nearby, school nearby. So I really like the way that came out. Also off camera, I put in, I feel like this entire block was filled in off camera. I was getting a lot of crime issues in the city, so I put this small police station in, and then, you know, some housing next to it, and again, just a mix of older Victorian assets next to these more slightly larger, more stately looking homes in the city. But overall, I'm really liking how this came out. You know, it's kind of wild to look at a city that's this size compared to the city center that took us a couple of builds in the main city of Kingston. But I really can't wait to continue to build this out. As I've been saying, this will eventually get connected over towards the main city. This will all get filled in the future, but I think the next thing you're going to have happen is the marina. So we're going to be maybe working on this next episode, but certainly a lot of work to do filling in the rest of this city, and not so much time to do it. But that is all the time we have for today. I think this video has been long enough. Thank you all so much for showing up as always. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and have a fantastic day.